Hello and welcome to our Gene Key transit for full moon in Capricorn. It is the gate of 10. Gene Key 10 is the gift of naturalness. Now, this one hopefully will be short because I am on a limited time frame trying to squeeze this in before I enter a silent retreat. Official start time is coming up really quickly. And so I'm going to do my best to be succinct and get to the point and finish this up. And hopefully it'll be packed with information, but also nice and short for you guys. And, as a preface, I really love that I found this retreat and that I'm being able to do it during a time that it will be the summer solstice and it'll be the full moon in Capricorn, which is exactly what I need to be contemplating because I'm a Cancer sun and moon, right? I have so much flow in me. Capricorn is a teacher for sure in my life. So, with all that said, let's get started. So yeah, so it is the shadow of self-obsession, the gift of naturalness, and the city of being. This is what we're getting into right now. I like to talk about how it's connected to the rest of our energetic framework archetypes and possibilities. So it is in the G center, which is where we get to know what love is in our human existence. And excuse me, and it's also connected to actually three other centers. The first one, which I will always use as preference, is the throat. So we'll talk mostly about that. The throat center, and then the splenic center, and then the sacral. So we have the aspect of how we are communicating our love, how we are instinctively being connected to our love, and then how we are generating or energizing or perpetuating or empowering our love. Yeah. So so in this, to me, this is the ring of humanity. This is really talking about what it means to be human at its core. This is like the G center is the core of us, the heart of us. It is, and then it's connected to the things that really exemplify how we be human. The instinctive nature is more the animalistic. The sacral is kind of just what you come in the world with. You get a certain amount, you can grow it, you can waste it, right? But you get what you get when you come in. And then the communication of all that, right? So yeah, so it's a really central figure of archetype within the gene key and human design system. So, what I think we need to know about this before we try to apply it to our business and lives, this shadow of self-obsession is being overly focused on the body, basically. Now, I'm a body person. I'm about somatics. I love that junk, right? So this is not necessarily meaning, as it never does mean, that the shadow is wrong. It just means that we have to be in awareness around how we are being in relationship with ideas and our own body, right? But when we overfocus on our environment and the threat of our environment to our body or how our body is, it excludes others from the immediate concern or attention. So that's a direct quote from Richard Rudd. That excluding of others makes it that self obsession, makes it, you'll see in a little bit, that it turns into an idea of narcissism as well. Okay. So it is definitely pointing out the clarity of that truth of being part of an aspect of humanity. What we are looking for, though, here in the energy that the shadow is what it's trying to help us do, right? If we are going to live into the gift of that energy, is to be at ease with who we are without all the labels and the things that we try to call ourselves that become who we think we are instead of vice versa, which for those who are following this know that we truly are spirit. So all this body stuff is just kind of a mirror of what is available in the spirit, and then how much of us we get to be here is to me that part of self actualization, of self expression, of being all of who we are here and now, that I think is so vital for us to be in unity on the planet, in co creation with the planet. Yeah, which is my ultimate goal. So, this being at ease is one of the reasons I found like my first step of the Omans method, which is really just breathing out. But it was when I was looking for, so, there was a um, musical mentor that was talking about being at home with your instrument. And because my instrument is my body, right? And all singers, your instrument is your body, and your speaker, if you're, well, as a human being, your instrument is your body, right? Like, how do I be at home with myself, right? It was like, how do I find that? And so I stumbled upon the breath outward, and it's what allowed me to focus in real time, to be active and powerful on stage every time that I was trying to be present and be on point, essentially, for the job or the gig that I was at. And it became the homing device for finding myself in my breath and my movement in the music and how I wanted to express it, and not being so overly focused on the external and like letting the audience or self doubt become a block that kept me from being the best that I could be. Right. So that's kind of how this sits at home for me. And just what makes you feel at home with yourself, I think, is a good contemplation to find out as we move into, again, this application to our work. So it can go wrong when we have um, excluded other people from our experience of understanding who they are, their experience, their emotions, their challenges, right? It can um, have you obsessed with your own uniqueness, which is important, right? We just talked about how individualization is important. And actually, in the chapter, it talks about how full individualization is the only path we have to complete unity. Everything must be identified to be wholly unified. And it's just kind of this process of evolution of the humanity cycle that becomes the SIDDIC, the SIDDHI, that city, SIDDHI realization, right? And so it isn't, that's kind of the point of this work. So so it's important to us, and you can decide if it's important to you. So yeah, the conundrum here is, do we follow the crowd, or do uh we you know become the crowd, I guess. Like all of us only about us, right? And so if we keep trying to make it an either or situation, the separation thing that we keep thinking that something must be better, so therefore the opposite must be wrong, that idea that keeps pulling us in those stretching our existence, and not allowing for the uniqueness, because now you have to be in the right or wrong camp. You can't just have your own version of your own opinion for your own reasons. So yeah, so that can go wrong quickly. And then if we try to get too involved in what identifies us and our unique qualities, then we get lost in that maze, and then we can't see the truth of the external reality, and therefore um, allow for that unification when it's time for that as well, right? It's good to know yourself and be for yourself, and that's great, because that individualization allows you to be clearer when you have made that decision to love others and be with others and recognize unity with others. So the nature here is that it can be unsatisfied with the level of understanding of self, and unsatisfied with the level of people understanding who they are, right? And the repressive side, it becomes self-denying, and you start living for and through others. We have seen this probably in the mother archetype, where I actually had a friend that made an opera called Smother, and it was some of that. It was kind of this idea of smothering, so that when that child's life becomes your life, now you feel like you need to control it and you need to direct it, and it's about you instead of that own child's individualization, right? Um, and this can also happen with other dynamics for everything. So this can happen in religious dynamics. We've seen this a lot with like churches, and like it's all service, and like you deny self. But Richard Rudd's point here is that it becomes non-serving in that you're not bringing your unique gifts and qualities, and you're not you're become like this amalgamous thing, and it's this form of martyrdom, because you're basically killing your self identity in order to do the things that you think you should be doing. And and then when you kill your identity, when you kill your individuality, then you're killing the possibility for the unification. This is why a lot of people believe in things like reincarnation. You have to keep getting it right, because until you get it right, we don't get it right, right? But you ultimately, we're all in this together, right? Reaction, on that reaction side, it's narcissistic. It's denying the existence of others, whether it's by their unique qualities, or by their possibility of emotion, like the gaslighting idea, and or their possibility of contribution, right, to your life or to the whole, right? So it can get real ugly real quick. There's this other side of the programming partner. We're not going to get into the details of the other things that I like to usually incorporate. But at minimum, let's know that the programming partner is 15. The shadow is dullness. And in that dullness is that idea of conforming with those around you, so that you are not distinctive, right? So there's no facet to that diamond, right? So there's no point of sparkle and focus. So yeah, so that conforming keeps us in this idea of self-obsession. Why? Because the only reason why you would conform is because you're obsessed with yourself, whether that's your self-safety or your self-worth in the eyes of others. So it's again that kind of martyrdom. It essentially kills the individualized self eventually. So we don't consider that a good thing around here. So the power of this energy is that, I love the way that Richard Rudd puts this at the beginning of the gift, which is living your own myth. What I love about this is that, okay, yes, we're focused on who we are and what makes us different. Know thyself. I think it's a cosmic truth that I highly believe in. And like, it doesn't necessarily mean that all the things that we use, including that, like I use a lot of astrology, right? But if I allow the astrology to define me instead of helping me find my own definition of self, then I am living in the wrong perspective of astrology, because the way I realize that energy is my myth, is that epic hero adventure for what I'm doing, right? So that is the amazing part of the gift. We want to be living our own myth, our own legend. This is why I really love like talking and leaning into things like legacy, because your legacy work is the story of the myth you've created and are leaving on the planet, right? And how it ties into the other grand being myths, the beautiful gods and goddesses around you, and the beautiful um, possibility of lineages over thousands of years of time, backwards and forwards. I think it's a magical thing to recognize that you are part of the whole of a grand myth, right? I love it. Karen Curry Parker is giving us an understanding that giving energy that is more or less than required is out of integrity. If you're in self love, you recognize when you're out of integrity and the energy that you're giving. If you're over giving and not self denying in order to not have to deal with who you really are and what really is meaningful to you, then we are living in that out of integrity. If we are undergiving because we don't believe that we're valuable, then that our services aren't required and that don't need to be we don't need to offer it. We don't need to get out there. That's a form of self-denial on the other side, right? And that is a little narcissistic by itself. It two two sides of the coin, folks. People like to look at the one side and call it the whole thing, but there's two sides to that coin. And the other one is thinking you're so special that you you just need to stay quiet because nobody could ever understand you. And I'm talking from self experience here. I'm not judging. I'm talking about my own experience of my version of that other side of the coin. So, yeah, it's important to be self compassionate when we recognize we're out of integrity, give ourselves more love, be gentle with ourselves, not judge ourselves and whip ourselves into some form of conformity of the idea that we think we should be doing. Okay. The challenge here is to love yourself and what you create. And what's hard, I think, about this is that our creations are in the past. A lot of my artist minds out there, you know what I'm talking about. The creations are in the past. They're what you could do back then. And sometimes it's hard to value them at the level that your current understanding is because you've grown since then. That's part of being human. You know you can do better. That's part of the future that you're creating right now. And so sometimes it's hard to accept the past creations. But what Karen Curry Parker is saying here is that that's what we're here for. We want to embrace those creations, bring them in. So I love you. I love you. You're perfect for then, and I love you now. Yeah. And it's as good as I was able to. And if I want to make it better, I'll do it again. This is why I love like sculptors and painters because they'll do the same scene over and over and over until they're done. Yeah. And they don't say that the first series of a scene is less important than the second series. It's just a different series. It's a different time, a different representation of their present expression at that time. And it's all powerful. It's all important. Um, yeah. So loving ourselves through all the stages of development and growth is important. Optimally, that you love yourself so much and you understand how unique you are so much and you value every aspect of that so much that it is inspiring to you. It is the source of your creativity. The unbalanced expression is bored with life. If nothing's exciting, I forget exactly how my mom used to say this, but she used to say, like, we would call her in the summertime at work when she's doing work and be like, Mom, I'm bored. And she's like, well, if you're bored, that means you're boring. Find something that's interesting to you and do it. So yeah, like I would be like, well, I guess I need to find something interesting. I would go into my we got an encyclopedia series, right? And I would just open a random book and be like, what am I interested in here? And sometimes you have to do that. That's why I love astrology because we can look at the different archetypes and we can see which ones we're attracted to. We can see which ones we may even resemble a little bit, and then start to embrace those unique qualities and see how much more of ourself can we create along that line. Because it's all this kind of exploration in real time, and we get to play with that, right? So contemplations here that may bring this home for you. Where can I find evidence of my lovability in my life right now? Again, these are Karen Curry Parker, Quantum Human Design. What do I need to do to take responsibility for situations I hate? hate in my life right now, the more we're tolerating those hated situations, the less we're honoring the unique qualities of ourselves. In other words, we're not valuing our own discernment of what we like and what we don't like. And I see this a lot in the feminine aspect of our culture. We are so self-denying. We've been taught that that's the right way to be. We get more accolades, we get more love, we get more of all the things when we are more self-denying. So we are so used to being like, oh, it doesn't matter what I like. I'm going to like you, in the smallest things, but in the biggest things too, because you'll see this happen at the voting polls, right? So if we're just saying, well, what I want isn't important, I'm going to vote for the line of my family or the line of my culture, or the line of my religion, or the line of, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to move on. Next question, final question. Oh, no, two more. From Karen Curry Parker. What needs to change? So that's another aspect of that. What do I hate? And where am I holding blame? Because if we're blaming somebody else for the way we are perceiving our own life, then more than likely there's an aspect of self that we are not appreciating and realizing, or on the way to realizing, and therefore we're feeling some kind of way about that. Okay, so it's just great exploration journal questions. All right. Three things to let go of in this full moon Capricorn: the gift of naturalness, the quantum human design, a gate of self love. Three things. Let go of the concretized idea of who you are or should be. So we all have that idea, even again, with all my astrology and learning about myself and different modes of astrology all around the globe, Western, Indian, Vedic, I should say, uh, Mayan, I forget the right name for that too. Sulcan, Chinese. I've been through a lot of these things and I have charts for them all. I appreciate the knowledge and wisdom of all the cultures, and I especially appreciate when they merge and tell me a resonant and repeating truth that helps me to really focus in on what that truth is to me. So, anyways, I love playing with those things, but I also have to let go of all that just to see what the nut is underneath. But sometimes in the beginning, we need the tools, and then let the tools lead us to the time when we're looking for a more pure truth of that self. But sometimes we need to get in the area before we can find the gold, right? So let go, number two, of needing to prove who you are. This is something that my people love to do. I'm going to prove that I'm a good person. I'm going to prove that I'm intelligent. I'm going to prove that I'm of service. I'm going to prove that I'm useful. I'm going to prove I'm worth love. Yeah, let it go. Let it go. You are who you are, and you are worthy of love. You are worthy of attention. You are a service to the world, even before you do anything. So don't wait to know that and live it. Okay? Let go. Number three, let go of needing others to agree with who you are. It's a different version of a similar thing, but let others be their individualized selves. If they have a different perspective than you, let them have it. Now, if y'all are in a discussion to evolve an idea and the collaboration of unity of humanity, then that's different and we can have that conversation. But even within that conversation, we get to share who we are and see how the other person is realizing themselves within the conversation, not force them into a new realization or say you're wrong if you don't agree with me. It's not the point, folks. It's not the point. All right, three content ideas for this full moon Capricorn, Gate 10, human design, and in uh, the Gene Keys naturalness, three content ideas. What makes you different from the general assumptions about your service or field? So for me, this is like I am not a speechwriter. I help speakers, yes, but it's not about the words you're saying to me. I'm not going to edit your script. I might look at it and see how it resonates with me, but I'm not going to edit it for you. I'm going to tell you how it lands with me, how I feel about it, how I think others will respond that are the words are meant for, you know. That's how I view it. I'm actually reading to me the energy more than getting the words right and all those things. Because if I was perfect in that, this would look a lot different, folks. Okay. Then my specialty essentially is finding the power of the impact of the energy behind that thing, and how do we exemplify that? How do we tune into it? You know, that's what I do. The start um, or Start maker. Star maker. I put a T on the end. I said star maker. So a star maker to me is like somebody who says, I'm gonna make you the next Madonna. I'm gonna get you the lead role on dot dot dot. Right? Like I am not that kind of voice teacher, even though I do often teach vocal technique for singing. It is about, to me, how are we tapping into our inner artist, our creative, our flow of joy while we're singing, our self expression and artistry. What does it mean to be in flow of what wants to happen and be present in the room when that happens, and deliver the healing that's available in the room? Recognizing how to lean into that energetically. Like, this is what singing is about to me. Voice is so much more than entertainment to me. Although I value entertainment too. Joy, fun is important, but it's just not my wheelhouse. Okay. All right. So the second content idea question is, what best represents you or the heart of your work or purpose? So, what best represents you? For me, like, the best representation is something that the world at large is, still learning and leaning into as a direct, important concept. They talk about it in adjacent to other things, so that's nice. And it's nice that they're even talking about it nowadays, but it's still kind of something I have to reconfigure into ideas that people are more familiar with when I'm talking to the mass public. But if it was my world and I was the only person in it and I was in my full narcissistic mode, it would look like purely vibration, purely about the wave, how waves are happening through everything in existence, and the resonance, possibility, and capability and realization of that vibration and or wave. And that, to me, is the true power of voice. And it's the reason why it's such a powerful thing to study, and why I love teaching vocal alchemy. So the third content question is, how are others making progress in your field? This one I also find is either, maybe it's just hard for me, but maybe also for clients and people in my studio, right? But I have a hard time mentioning other people that are doing my work. I want to be the most unique person in the room. Am I the only one? Okay, maybe it's just me. But but like, I do take a certain level of pride and value in my unique qualities. I have to, because what else am I going to be prideful about? So it's a little bit of a chokehold for me of wanting to keep that one in my ego box. But in welcoming of the fullness of who I be, I will talk to you about the people I see at the leading edge. I'm really excited about learning more about. I've invited an amazing speaker to my yearly summit at the end of the year. Her name is Jennifer Lang, and she is doing amazing work. She is a what do they call it? A light. Um, she's a light singer. She translates light, essentially, is a channeling, and doing amazing work, has done amazing work in India, around the world. She's in Canada. Amazing, beautiful soul at the forefront of vocal alchemy, in my opinion. She calls it something different, but that's the beauty. That's the beauty. Like, as close as she is to my work, that I we're still highly distinctive, and yet We're going to come together to make greatness happen at that event in November. Other people, Robert E. Grant is doing amazing, amazing work on vibration and math and music and the pyramids. And it's exciting, and it's talking about us being at the threshold of the Aquarian age. They just found the chamber that they're correlating with the throat chakra in the pyramids. They just announced it like last month. This is how leading edge voice work is, and it just whew, makes me happy. The Lost Octave I just found about from Jennifer Lane, who is written by Comber, and Comer is probably the right way to say it, Comber. And he is on the team with Robert E. Grant doing mathematical junk about vibrational waves. And his book is called The Lost Octave. I can't wait to dive into that after my silent retreat. All right, folks, for coming by. I appreciate you being here. And if I don't see you in chat on YouTube, then I'd love to see you at one of my events. Check my links in the comments.